Good afternoon, I'm Meteorologist Aaron Tuttle. So we're watching these lines of storms develop from Kansas all the way back into northeast Oklahoma and down into southwest Oklahoma City metro area. Things firing off pretty quickly, and there has been at least one tornado warning. It's been in Kansas though, southeast Kansas, where I talked about how it would be. We'll see and keep an eye on things elsewhere. We've got a good view of a storm coming in here close to my house. We'll take a look at that and more. So thanks for joining me. Make sure you tell your friends and family about this stream so they can watch an alternative to covering severe weather. And we're going to give you storm tracks. We're going to take a look at analyze detailed scientific approach to each individual storm, and we'll tell you what it's going to have in it, what it can do, what it's potentially capable of, all that kind of stuff. We'll break out all those details as well. Let me give you a second here to get things set up. Got a multitask in my head, and that's not always so easy. There's too many things going on. But this will give you guys time to kind of get acclimated. Let's see here. First thing I want to start out with, let me see. Yeah, let's do this, and then I'm going to make sure my crawl is going. So what I'll have here at the top is a crawl from the National Weather Service that'll update, and it'll have all the warnings, advisories, all that kind of stuff coming through. So I just have to enable the newest fetch of data from the National Weather Service. It'll cover the entire state, so that's good. In other words, you'll always be informed whether you're watching from northeast Oklahoma or down along the Red River. Should have all the details there for you. So good. I just got that thing started. So that'll update here in a second. I'll go ahead and close that. Okay, so let's get on with it, shall we? All right, first thing we've got is, of course, a look at the individual radar image. Here across central Oklahoma, we've got this storm up around Cashin, Piedmont to El Reno, and then from there, it upbuilds, I should say, because normally you say back builds down the line. We're going to reverse and go up the line. So from Guthrie to Stillwater to Pawnee, up toward Osage County, and then back here into southeastern Kansas. So this storm up here in Kansas, northwest of Coffeyville, was the one that had the potential tornado with it, but that warning has since diminished and is no longer in effect. Currently, they're just looking at severe storms in this area of Oklahoma. And there has been some wall clouds reported, what may or briefly have been a tornado up here in northern Oklahoma along Highway 60. So we'll see. That wasn't anything confirmed. There's a storm spotter in the area. I thought you might have seen something. So we're going to see how that materializes with time. But what we're going to focus on also is out here to the south and west. And let me pull up, let's see here. Do I have that on? I believe I do. Let's see, where is it? I do. Okay. We'll do it this way. I've got a really good view of that storm that's in northwestern Oklahoma, or northwestern parts of the metro coming in. And that's what I was going to pull up. All right, let's see if I can get this in there. There we go. All right, so that was the view of the tail end of this particular storm. So we'll have a good view of the wall cloud, and if it actually produces anything out of it, we'll be able to show that for you. And again, this is in this cell right here. So the one that's moving through Kingfisher down toward Piedmont. So we're kind of looking at the back end of this cluster. Earlier had a pretty decent wall cloud with it. Nothing, I couldn't see any rotation or anything. But needless to say, it was a developing cell. Another strong little cell around Mulhall. So all these are severe thunderstorm warned. So for example, this one here in Cashin, we'll start with this one. Of course, it's moving in the next really 20 minutes. We'll see how, these things aren't moving all that fast just yet because they just started building. So the algorithm will start to detect the wind speeds a little bit better on shore. So Langston, Cole, the path of this one along with Guthrie, up toward the road. Orlando obviously one, and that'll moving into, we'll call it Stillwater, but it's probably just going to clip just to your south on the southwest side of town. So the stronger storm activity with that one may kind of congeal with the one the south of that, so kind of on the northern fringe. So maybe a little bit of hail in Stillwater. Up around more, take a look at that one. That'll head toward Pawnee here the next half. And then if we keep up the line toward Pawhuska in the Bartlesville area, this next storm is heading. All these looks like have hail anywhere from about an inch and a half in diameter. In other words, up to about golf ball size seems to be the general consensus. This is Dewey to about 541. So the next half hour, not going to move a whole lot just yet, but as they get more developed and more mature and start to line out, they'll start cruising down south and east. But this is in the early stages, so they move pretty slow. Focus kind of on these guys here in central Oklahoma. And they seem to have some pretty good low cloud view, and also as far as radar signatures. All right, so let me see. Let me pull up this guy here, and we are on the tip bar. All right. So what I'll do is flip through a lot of different radar products, just so I can get a good look inside each particular storm. Nothing too concerning as of this point in time. We'll pull up the hail size estimates and all that stuff here as well and show you what potentially is in those storms. Let's see. Got all that started. And then we'll look at the environment here that these guys are going up into. And we're going to see what is potentially available for them. So let's move this. Let's see here. So the main threat for central Oklahoma, if you're just tuning in, is for large hail and damaging wind. There's a little slightly better tornado potential up northeast toward Tulsa, and that will continue for the afternoon, or actually now that we head into the evening, it's 5 o'clock now. We're going to keep an eye on these as well, just because we can. All right, let's see, let's do this. So all these are good old-fashioned thunderstorms. Now there are some hail reports already out of this. The one in Marshall, broadcast meteorologist, said 2-inch size hail on ping, and then also from probably a storm chaser in that area, 1 3/4 inches, about golf ball, just north and west of there. This is around Marshall, both the north side and the east side of town. So this storm has had some really good hail with it. Radar estimates about 2-inch size hail with that. That's golf ball to approaching tennis ball size. So that's what I'm saying, when you kind of blanket everywhere getting tennis ball size hail, it won't happen, but the potential underneath these very small regions, underneath these huge supercells, those can produce the large hails. But they don't affect very many people. It's usually maybe about a 5-mile region around the hardest core of the storm. So they're very specific. Let's see. I'm just going to keep kind of up and down the line. I got to go, so I got to kind of just scroll up from southwest to northeast, kind of keep an eye on all of these. Let's see. Let's go back to this view here. Good looking cell. I'll have a good view of it. Let me go left and right. So I got both of those in the shot. This one's the best view that I've got for this particular cell. Let me go up And we'll watch the back end. So this is the back end of the cumulonimbus clouds. And this is the area rain-free base from this region back into here. So this is where you typically get your mesocyclone. That's where you have all the updraft air going up. And then usually in here is your hail core, where that's falling down. But for tornado potential, for example, we'd be watching in this clear slot region here. So as this gets above the trees, I'll be able to track it visually a little bit better. So I'll look at that more here in a moment. So again, there's no tornado warnings right now. I'm just watching some hail-producing storm that's pretty close to Oklahoma City. It's hot out there. It's in the 80s, mid to upper 80s at that. There was a tornado warning in Kansas. That has since been allowed to expire. And there's a cluster of storms here in northern Oklahoma and Osage County, which have most attention on them right now as far as the best conditions for that kind of thing. Let's go on down. Let me see potential hail size and see if this bad boy's working. Okay, so the one out here in Piedmont coming into Edmond, hail size with that one, radar estimates about an inch potential with that. So it's just baby storms are good. That baby storm via my roof cam up here north of the Guthrie. That one's a mature one. That's got about 2-inch sized hail with it, a little bit larger. So we might have some tennis balls in that one. And of course, each least wind gust is 58 miles per hour, potentially or more. That's what classifies as a severe thunderstorm warning. North of there to Morrison, this particular one heading toward Pawnee's got hail about an inch to inch, maybe an inch and a half, so under golf ball size. Then back up here, I switch radar to get a better estimate of hail up here, so that the radar can sample it better. But right now they're about golf ball range indicated on the algorithms, and here in the southwestern, this good grief, there's some up there that says there might be some definite tennis balls coming down with the stronger storms up there. All right, that's the kind of hail recap. I'm more interested in just low level rotation to see if any tornado potential exists. And although I'm not expecting it here around the Oklahoma City metro area, conditions are not as favorable. Matter of fact, I'm going to go look at something while I'm talking about that. I've got some time, so we'll go ahead and discuss it. Let's see. So for this operation that I do, let's see, let's pull in Tidwar, yeah. Okay. All right, so here's one issue as to why it's a lot more difficult to get a tornado here in Oklahoma City. Even though these storms will rotate, they'll be supercellular looking, wall cloud, rain-free base, all that. All right, they just explained to you on the roof cam shot. The wind speeds and the wind direction. All right, these are all westerly at several thousand feet, 10,000 on up. All right, that's fine, no problem. Wind speeds, they're not that great, around 30 knots. It's pretty weak. Once you get down lower, which is really for tornadoes, a little bit better indication. You've got 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers, or excuse me, 1,000. Yes, it's feet, 1,000 feet. It's 20 knots. Wind speed's not that bad actually. In other words, if they were weaker than this, you have a lot less threat of a tornado. So at least there's something there. However, they're all southwesterly. See how these winds are all southwest? You don't get a whole lot of turning with that for a storm to feed into with the all southwesterly component. So what that typically means is you get two things. One, a severe thunderstorm watch instead of a tornado watch, which is what we have. And two, a severe thunderstorm warning instead of a tornado warning, which is what we currently have. So this is the environment that these particular storms are going into with wind speeds, which is why they should not produce a tornado, just given the environmental conditions. Now, a freak thing can always happen, but it's going to be very rare. So we look into these storms here. There's a wind bar from the southwest, 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 almost due west, southwest, southwest. All right. Now, for a tornado to actually happen, you need all these little reporting stations to go from the east to the west. In other words, an east wind, southeast wind, southeast wind. That would change the game and give us a better shot at producing tornadoes here around the greater Oklahoma City area. But we don't have that. That is very important for storm structure. So usually when storm chasers go out, they're hoping for some type of meso-low, ahead or before the storms to kind of back those winds in. That's what we call it, backing. You get those directions out of the southeast. We don't have it. So you may see this and jump up and down and say, we could see a tornado at any moment. Well, that's a lie. It's not going to happen. There's going to be a lot more on the radar than what it's showing now. The wind field doesn't support the surface, so we have to look at the radar trends to see if even they support it. And so far, wise, it's all been mid-level, which is what a supercell does. They all rotate in mid-levels, but low levels has been lacking. Matter of fact, I just see broad convergence at the lowest level. So the broad convergence is when you have, this is the velocity data of the radar. So the red is winds blowing away from the radar, green blowing toward. So what you have here is a line convergence. You do not have spinning. You do not have a nice couplet where the winds are just spinning around. You do not have that. You just have a north and south wind, or in this case a southwest wind. So we need more of a couplet to form to even have a chance of producing a tornado. Now, what I can do, let's do this. So hail size is still up around 1.5 inches in this one. I'm going to go back in time where that 2-inch, let's say I go back to there, and let's do this. I'm just looking at something, don't mind me. Interesting. Alright, so from that point of time after the large hailstone, there were never any additional indications of any large that size. A lot of times, hailstone gets so large it has to come down. It can't keep being sustained by the updraft speeds, so it comes back down. And it takes a while for a storm to regenerate another hail size, if it's got the juice to do that, to get that large, and it may never at that point. In this particular case, this storm lost that big hail and they never got it again. Looking at the data, I was just taking a peek at it. Now it'll go through this recycling process and may get some more. Let's see. So what I'm going to look for, like in these cores, all right? So this core is back in, strange view of where the mesocyclone would be. So this is a multicellular junk mess is what this is. It's not a true supercell. It's got too many processes going on it's fighting. One being that really pathetic shear in the atmosphere. So it can't do what it normally wants to do, which is, in a supercell, try to produce a tornado. It's going to happen. Right now it's got a probability of a tornado of 1%. That's what the algorithms are kicking out. That's not very high. It's a 99% chance of it not tornado. All right, now as far as the hail goes, what I will correlate with is I will look at the hail core itself as far as, let me go with this guy. What just happened there? All right, they did not like what I just did. Try that again. I'll tell you what, I've got so many programs running this machine, it's just like, screaming. It's angry. Alright. Yeah, that memory on that is just angry with me. It'll get there eventually. Alright. So what I was doing when I crashed that program. Alright. The hail core's here, correlated with the rotation signature here, correlate well with a ZDR that's low and a cross correlation coefficient that's low. It typically indicates some very large hail over golf ball size, we call giant hail. So this storm is trying to get back into that look. So maybe reorganizing into some much larger hail. That's what I'm trying to say. So in this particular case, I spent a lot of time on that discussion because there's nothing tornado-wise, at least up to this point, to focus on. So here up in far northern Oklahoma, right on the state line, there is a new tornado warning that came out for the storm that we talked about in Kansas. So Tulsa's issued a warning for Lenapaw, where Central Oklahoma. This is up around just east of the northeast of Bartlesville area. So we'll take a look at that as well. So let me see here. How do I want to do this? Let's use this one. It is a tornado warning potential indicated by radar. It is not indicated by spotters. So that's always a good thing. A radar indicated tornado can sometimes be a lot different than a storm spotter indicated tornado. Both can be flawed, both can be very good at what they do. All right, while that's happening, I'm going to switch right over here too because I want to see the wind environment in Tulsa. Because here in Oklahoma City, it's nothing to write home about. We'll see if that's different up there. And meanwhile, while those are loading, here's a look outside my window. Purdy. That is a nice little storm. It's moisture starved, meaning it's low precipitation. Now, in this particular case, that can be misleading. Low precipitation can also mean large hail sometimes. It can be, you don't get a lot of raindrops from it, but from different physical processes, you can get some large hail out of it. So a lot of times you can get what we call tracking maybe a hail core versus a rain shaft. So if I turn the camera up facing more to my north, you would see this large rain shaft. And in this could easily be a little bit of hail. But you can see right through it. So that's why I say it's moisture starved. Now that goes with the forecasted soundings here over Oklahoma City of very dry air at the lowest levels. So in this particular shot, there's a helicopter right here getting as close as he possibly can. And then here's another helicopter shot right here just off the screen. He's also getting as close as he can. So they're going to battle it out as to who can get the best live shot. And I don't have to use any helicopter. I got it right here just looking from my roof. Pretty good deal. So it's a pretty supercellular structure, but it's got a long ways to go to do something. All right, I'll come back to that in a minute. Let me go back to the actual tornado warning up here in the Tulsa area, Lenapaw and Coffeyville. So this one will be heading to southeast, currently located roughly around State Highway 10 and just west of 169 by about 3 miles. And it's a very broad rotation, nothing very tight, but that's the location, the track of it moving to the southeast. It'll pass north of Lenapaw by about 4 miles and then eventually towards Central. Alright, now I was looking at the other radar as well, and I want to see what the wind field looked like up there. Okay, so in Tulsa, remember I showed you the wind field layer here in Oklahoma City, and I'm going to show it to you in Tulsa. Big difference here. Let's see, can you see that low level? I think you can. Let me see with that, point this in there. Yeah, you can. Okay. So this is the wind field here in Tulsa. You notice how they have a due south wind for 1, 2, 3,000 feet, and it's up around 30 knots. And then the data's missed is westerly up here. It's still not very strong, which means it won't be fast movers, but the bottom line is very sustained. It's a very steady wind field. So this is a conducive wind field for tornadoes. And this is why the Storm Prediction Center and the data highlights northeast Oklahoma for a better shot at seeing tornadoes today versus here in central Oklahoma. So the wind field here in Tulsa does indicate that these storms up here, if they don't line out too much, can produce a tornado, given the optimal conditions. Right now, you see how they're all clustered? There's just one big cluster of storms on individual. If they were individual supercellular still, it wouldn't be a problem at all. In this environment, they could produce a tornado. Right now, they're fighting each other for updrafts and space and breathing room, and it's not pretty. It's an ugly fight. And because of that, they stay a little more disorganized. So that's a good thing. So again, up here in north of Tulsa is the only potential storm that's trying to rotate enough to produce a tornado. It's just north of Lenapaw, about 3 miles. Let's see this. Let's go back here. Might help. Click on that. Yeah, there's no other communities involved. It's going over a lot of farmland, so that's good. Always good when things go over farmland. Let's put back on this guy. All right. Let's go back out my view. Gorgeous shot, by the way. Take a snapshot of that. Save. Make that my new wallpaper. So pretty soon we're going to lose the structure of what we're able to see from the lighting. So the little beaver's tail back here, we're going to lose that in the back edge and the back anvil because it'll come pretty close to me. So it's going to, we'll see how it plays with the lighting. But we'll still get a good view of the important area of the storm in this region. We'll be able to tell if this base of the cloud lowers down here to produce a wall cloud, and if we can get a rotating wall cloud. Don't expect that to happen to that degree, but we'll see. All right, so let me check this guy here. So some really good wind field coming in this particular point here, which looks like a developing tornado. And this is going to be, where are we at? We're in Osage County. So we're just coming into the southwest of Bartlesville. So we're about 1, 2, 3 miles southwest of Bartlesville. And briefly there for that one scan, it looked like it was going to try to produce something. And the next scan, it gusted out. So this will be the next area to watch to see if a potential tornado can get going. So that would be this guy here and then this guy here. So those two regions are to watch up around the Tulsa area. Well, let's go back down to Oklahoma City. So these guys up around Guthrie are reporting a wall cloud near Guthrie. And the one out here in Piedmont, no significant rotation on that at all. I don't know if I can see the one in Guthrie from here. Let's take a look. It's just really dark. Yeah, I can see the back end feeding into it. Let me see this. But as far as the structure, yeah, it's a little too far away. So I'm starting to get the raindrops here from this one. I'll let you know if it turns out some hailstones mixed in. It's pretty anemic. Pretty storm, but anemic of the good stuff. Totally fine by me because it's coming right my direction. I don't have to hit the hidey hole. We'll watch this one too. On radar, it looks like this clustered mess here. So I'm looking at let's see, probably this region right here. Let's see. All right. Let's go back up to this guy here. So those two circulations here in Tulsa, at least the one near Bartlesville, still has not regained itself. That's good. Big picture here across the state is in this area around the rest of eastern Oklahoma. Nothing out west, and we'll see more of this line fill in with time a little bit. Let me see. They've basically been holding their own, but not increasing very much. So Norman will include a possible tornado in the wording for Guthrie, just because they're watching it very closely and they see the wall cloud up there.
Extreme mesocell detected.
Okay, so let's see. Let's take a look at this view here. I'm going to go back down to Oklahoma City so I can watch two radars over the same deal in Guthrie. Keep an eye on my guy out here in my backyard. It's looking pathetic. Good. Let's keep it that way. All right. Let's do this. RFD. It's done already. Okay, so this big ball here of reflectivity you see, wind wraps around the back end and then shoves outward to an easterly fashion, right? So originally you'll get a little wall cloud with that. But what happens on the velocity data a lot of times is this green because the wind's blowing toward the radar. So you get all these, the green indicating all the air coming back in this direction. And if it starts to push out too far ahead, then it's called RFD, and that's called rear flank downdraft, and that kills developing tornadic potential. As long as that storm remains in this configuration of RFD dominance, you can't get a tornado. So that just happened this last scan. That's how quickly things can change. You can go from a potential, look to it, maybe getting a tornado to, nope, not going to happen. It's going to take a while to change that. It doesn't happen like that. Once it's become RFD dominant, sometimes it never stops. And sometimes later down the road, it'll get its act back together if the environment's favorable. Let me check how the environment is looking, though. Let's see. Let's go here. By the way, my old chief, Travis Meyer, is going to town up there in Tulsa, keeping you guys safe. I'll keep checking on Tulsa here over time. They had a live shot of a potential developing tornado earlier, and I pulled those guys up. So what we're going to look at here is 2030. Let's refresh this. Yeah, 22. Okay. Put this back on. So what you're looking at is the super high resolution forecast model. This is in experimental developmental stages. Last couple of years they've been developing it, and so it's used in-house behind the scenes to get an idea of how things will progress. So what you're going to watch here is a couple things transfold. So from now through, let's go to, we're as far ahead as 6:15. It's a very short-term model, by the way. Every 5 minutes it gives a forecast, all right? So by 6:15, watch what it does. And let me zoom this in for you. All right, so at 6:15, it keeps this little supercell going here over Oklahoma City, and it moves the one in Guthrie to the east, but it doesn't have anything in between. Do you see that? So in other words, Oklahoma City doesn't have much happening with this event. The line, the tail end of the line just falls apart, and we looked at some model data indicating that earlier for our lunchtime live this afternoon around 1 o'clock. So that's what this high resolution data continues to suggest. However, it does suggest that that one lone storm hanging in there will eventually get its act together and likely produce some hail. In Tulsa, the deal with that is it's an environment that's favorable. This is what we call the significant tornado parameter. All right, so the significant tornado parameter is the colors underneath. When you see the scale go from orange up to purple, you're at the top end of the scale of a potential tornado. All right, in other words, as far as the atmosphere is concerned, what it can do. And if you look, you will see purple here in Tulsa County. So that is why when we looked at that wind field from the bad wind profile from the radar, it showed for potential developing tornado, this is the best location up here in northeast Oklahoma. And this goes all the way up through the drive time hour up to 6 o'clock or then on. So we'll be watching Tulsa carefully. So what I probably end up having to do is put more of my time for Tulsa on covering that versus the hailstorm that'll be moving through Oklahoma City. So Weather Service just put out an update that says that outflow has surged out ahead of the Guthrie circulation, but we'll still continue to watch it. So we talked about that about 5 minutes ago, and that kind of goes to show you that that's how quickly things can change, and then their worriness of it comes down along with the data. Same thing happened for that storm in Tulsa, by the way. Weather Service said same thing. That one surged out. That was the developing tornado I showed you that lasted for a scan and then diminished. All right, so let's go take a look back here in Oklahoma City. See how my shot looks. This is the back. I've got the raindrops coming down. You can see them possibly on your screen. This is a convoluted mess. It never really matured. But that's fine, because that means no hail at my house. Now, you may not be so lucky, especially if you live on the east side of town, or the south side of town. That's where storms will still try to get going. But just scan the skies here real quick to my south and west. And then my south and east. Now I'm due southeast there at that point. I'm going to swing all the way back around. That's my view of the Guthrie storm, which is nothing but the back edge of just heavy rain and some hail. It'd be great if we had some nice sunset in there. I could see the very back end of that and maybe catch that, what's left of the wall cloud area, the mesocyclone. That'd be a good sweet shot to get from here. Alright, so anyway, that's what's kind of coming through Oklahoma City. As you can tell, it doesn't look all that impressive. If you can see through the storm, see all around, all the rain, that kind of gives you an idea. It's not that impressive, right? Wind speeds on this, I don't find any. No rotation speak of. No hail. Probability of hail, no wind. Probability of hail is 41% of severe hail. And the size is up around 3/4 of an inch. Not even severe weather criteria. This is a pathetic storm. Now, remember the warn-on forecast does show this storm should continue to hold its own and then eventually intensify. So we shall see if that works out. So in other words, you folks here on the central and west side of town don't have anything to worry about. it's the ones that are going to be on the east side and southeast side of town once this thing tries to mature as to where you get the hail and then maybe some large hail. Ironically, all that's going along with the forecast I gave you at lunchtime today. Up here in the Guthrie area, still watching this. Let's go take a look to see if it's done anything interesting since last week. Took a look. Oops. And no, it hasn't. So that storm's going to be a heavy rainmaker and some hail. Hail size is up around 1.25 inches, looks like. And probability of severe hail is about 66%. So even that storm has come down quite a bit. ZDR values aren't that low, neither is the cross correlation coefficient. There is some signs of melting hail though, to where we get no data. So that means there is a pocket here. It's about a 1 mile by 1 mile region right here, east of Guthrie. There's probably going to be some large hailstones mixed in. And that'll be right along, what road is this? North Post Road and East College Avenue. The other parameters aren't indicated large though. So, but it's probably getting at least 1 inch size hail in that area. Okay, so that's the one in Guthrie affecting Langston and Meridian. It's just slowly moving on to the east and southeast. So those two storms kind of moving in more of a southeastward fashion. Really, they all are. They go up here to northern Tulsa. All just heavy rain and storm makers. That one lone tornado warned storm up here toward Lenapaw. I'll have to check to see if it still has any rotation left with it. Alright, so this is just good old-fashioned thunderstorm here in Oklahoma City. Nothing even to worry about at this point. So just so you know on how I monitor stuff for you, I've got 3 televisions going all at the same time, so I can watch live shots, helicopter, storm chasers on every channel. I monitor the National Weather Service feed, both from Tulsa and Oklahoma City, which is like behind the scenes chatter as what's happening, what's being reported, what they're looking at, that kind of deal. I monitor, of course, anything that I can provide you, which is the live roof cam, and then I go through 3 different radar programs, and then we go into the internet side of looking at severe weather parameters, indices, updates from Storm Prediction Center, so all of that, and then we'll what you don't see after all that is then me directing this whole thing on a show on a software for the computer side to pull up different graphics and then different inputs. As I probably get older, I don't think I'm able to pull this off so well. Oh my goodness gracious, my head spins. And then of course I gotta analyze the radar on the fly. So there's a lot going on up here. So if I stop talking, and I'm paused and I'm just processing, just because I gotta take all this information into this massive computer and process it and spit it back out for you. So that's what I end up doing. All right, let's take a look at the environment. This is where I was going to go earlier and I got squirreled, sidetracked. So, all right, where are we? Okay, this was that one. Storm Prediction Center, by the way, on their new update at 3:30, kind of kept the same region for severe weather in eastern Oklahoma, northeast Oklahoma. We're kind of on the tail fringe of it here in western. Let's see. The surface map. Let me see here. There is still a meso-low right here. Remember at lunchtime it was over here, and I told you it better hurry up and try to produce something because it's moving east and it's taking the tornado threat with it. Well, now it is here, which is right around Bartlesville. And guess where that tornadic storm is located? Right next to that meso-low. So that's how you can use that to forecast tornado development and location. Then back from that, we've got the cold front that's now congealing and cruising down here back behind the low, and it kind of meanders. It's tough because sometimes you get the cold front itself and then you'll get a secondary, like a wind shift line that kind of squeezes the two, right? You get something that'll do that. And then you'll actually have the real dry line. But in this particular case, we never really got a good dry line out of this. We got a southwest wind, but the air didn't mix out and dry out. So really we just have kind of a couple of wind shift lines and then the actual front itself. That messes up the surface field, and that also limits tornadoes. So there's so many limiting factors here to actually get tornadoes anywhere in central Oklahoma. It's just almost impossible to get. Northeast, better. They've got winds out here that are from the south and southeast, and down here in eastern Oklahoma, southeast. So again, this quadrant from around Tulsa, south to say McAllister, all the way down, and then east into western Arkansas is the best favorable region for tornadoes for that reason alone. Satellite viewpoint on the, let's kind of pop this in. Let's see if this will show up. Rivers, counties, state roads, highways, interstates. One of these days, I feel for you, all this mapping stuff will have better town names and reference points. Until then, you really need to learn a map as far as your geography goes, what your state, what your state looks like, what your county looks like, the outline of it, what road you're next to, if you're next to a highway or an interstate, and then where those go. Of course, the main interstate, 35 north-south, 40 east-west, 44 northeast southwest. Those are all markers kind of help you when you look at maps that may not have a particular town name on it that you're looking for. And I get that. That can be frustrating. Let me see here. What I wanted to look at was, I believe this one. I gotta look at something while I'm shaking my head. Okay. There's 2 TV stations that are doing this, and it drives me wild. They changed their color palette to look far worse than it actually is. So there's a lot more purple and black on the map to indicate something really bad's happening, right? And it drives me bonkers, because forever and a day, there's been a color table used to represent DBZ values, which represent power returned. That power return is then represented by visually hail sizes, heavy rain, that kind of deal. So your brain can put 2 and 2 together. So I know if it's red, it's in the 50s as far as DBZ values, right? That usually means heavy rain. If it's 55 DBZ or so, you start getting small hail. All right. Usually you save the purple and the white or black for crazy high values to indicate very large hail. But if you make light rain purple, which would normally have equated to like 70 dBz, you throw the whole thing off. But boy, it looks scary, and you need to pay attention. And it makes my head spin. So it's I'm gonna look at that, get irritated.
Do I need to worry about hail?
Let me see. For us, let me look. We're probably gonna have baby hail. Let me see here. Yeah, we're going to have baby hail or big raindrops. One or the other. So, we're good.
Keep the car where it is?
Yeah, you can keep everything where it is. So, with time, things may change, but for right now, baby hail coming in the metro and some good old-fashioned raindrops. Not seeing any follow-up from that tornado warning storm north of Tulsa. All right, so let me think here. So this is a storm coming up over my house with the raindrops. So Jody was checking in. She's like, "Hey, we have to worry about any big hail coming?" And I said, "No, I think we're good." But keep in mind, this storm will likely intensify. And so the east side of town is a different story versus the west side of town. including the south side of town is a different story than the north side of town. So just because I may not be getting some large hail doesn't mean that you may not eventually get it. Still got plenty of time. It's only 5:45, so it's going to be another hour before this whole storm is even out of southeastern Oklahoma City. All right, then that goes to more in Norman and east side and there on. So we'll see how the intensity does. Does it pick up in intensity or does it decrease in intensity? One of the things we can do is look upstairs. Storm itself, 50,000 feet, multiple cores in it. Multiple cores is a good thing because multiple cores mean each core. Okay, so what I mean by multiple cores, let's just show you. All right, you ready? This is the core, this is the core, this is the core. Baby core, middle core, mature core. Also, the colors in here are red, indicating about 50-55 dBz, which indicates very heavy rainfall and very tiny hail. And that's it for this. So that's why this storm coming in Oklahoma City, although it's large in magnitude, it's multicellular. In other words, too many cells. Therefore, not any one storm can get big enough to cause problems. So until this congeals into one, or one of these cores just gets so big it kind of takes over the breathing of the storm, it's going to be kind of this convoluted mess, which is fine. It keeps it on the weaker side. So let's close that. I hope all of this is helpful for you. If the guys on TV are scaring you to pieces and they're all saying large hail's coming and trails are coming and neither one of those is coming, and you keep watching them, there's a definition of insanity. And it's called doing the same thing over and over again expecting a different result. It will not change. The Oklahoma City market will not change. You're stuck with it. This is the way it is. This is the way it's going to be. If that bothers you, just turn it off. Don't watch it unless you have to. If I'm broadcasting, please watch what I do. If I'm not, use my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. There's various things you can do to not have to be put yourself under that constant stress, especially if it's not helping you. Alright, so that Guthrie storm is a no big deal. Call it nothing burger. Other shower storms kind of scattered, bubbling up. Nothing down southwest. This is the cold front, by the way. You can see it showing up in the reflectivity data. And this front down here is not triggering anything because there's a cap in place, which is preventing that from developing. We're kind of on the western fringe of the cap, which is allowing us to get. Let's go back up here toward Tulsa. And by the way, if you're watching and you're going, hey, how come you're not talking about my town? It's because there's not really a reason. It's just a thunderstorm. I don't cover thunderstorms usually. I cover tornadoes, tornado setups. If there's something like widespread damaging wind or very large hail, I'll focus on those aspects. So don't get upset if I'm not, mentioning your town. It's not because I don't want to, or it's because nothing's happening. It's just typically it's thunderstorm. We have those every year. So unless you're going to go outside and play in it, you don't have much to worry about. All right, let me switch up here to Tulsa and let's go get an update how this guy's looking. Where are we? Let's do this. By the way, before I check, I'm going to check the wind field here real quick. Oklahoma City. Wind field is still pathetic. It's at the southwest and west at all levels and also very weak, 15 knots, 20 knots. So that screams anti-tornado, just so you know. The wind fields do get a little bit better as you go northward toward Tulsa, which is probably why this Guthrie storm got a little better there for a brief moment before it gusted out. And it gusted out because the winds aren't conducive. In Tulsa, let's go take a look at that. Their winds were very conducive for a tornado should there be a storm in Tulsa at that point in time. Now, the wind field is representative of a general area, even though it's taken at a specific point. But things can change if you go too far in distance. All right, so the wind field here, where'd it go? There it is. Okay, so the difference here, they still have a south wind at the very, very surface. We're missing the data here at the 1 and 2 kilometer level. But 3, 4, 5 and up, we get that southwest to west turning with wind speeds holding steady at 30, 40 knots to close to 50 knots. So it's still in a decent environment to try to get tornadic potential with any of these storms that do come in. So we'll be watching those. So if you live in Tulsa, you still have to watch for potential for a tornado. The one up here, the warning that we've been watching, even though it didn't really have a tornado with it, has since expired. I don't see the red polygon on the map anymore, although I'm going to take off this really big polygon, which is the outlook. Okay. Alright, so what we've done here, this is interesting. You gotta love Mother Nature. Alright, so the good news for Tulsa is you see how this thing's lining out? Pick a different color. So this whole system's lining out. Alright, it becomes a squall line. Even though it's becoming into an environment that may be favorable for a tornado, once it already lines out, it's kind of like doing this. You're a running back, and you got the ball, and you got your stiff arm out, and you're stiff arming the rest of the environment. You're like, look, I've already got the ball. I'm solid. Foundation's good. I'm running with what I got. It's layman's way of saying this is a good thing to see. If there were individual cells, and you had a bunch of players on the ground with footballs each hand, and the supercells, that would be a problem. Alright, but on the tail end of this stuff is usually you have to kind of watch things. So, for example, you can sometimes see a lot of funky things in the radar data where you kind of get little hooks that will just kind of pop up, and you have to take a look to see if there's anything there with them or not. In this particular case, in this light reflectivity zone, it's not, but it gets my attention, obviously, for a good reason. I always look for anything that may cause some trouble. And right now, everything looks good in Tulsa. Those storms are still pretty far away. That's another half hour before they really even move through, say, downtown area, because they're still on the west side. They're not moving all that fast yet. So there's I see some quarter-size hail at Yukon. So one of the storm spotters out there had quarter-size hail of that storm. That's about as big as it got. Otherwise, lots of baby hail. Alright. So when we look from Tulsa radar, this is a storm out here, which looks much better than when we looked down below. 1.75 inches is the algorithm. So on the west side of town, this new cell that came up, the northern cells here in Oklahoma City weakened. We showed you those. But this new cell on the southwest side of town is now come up and is dominating. So this guy here, moving to the southwest Oklahoma City, looks like it's going to be the one that takes over and has some decent hail with it. So we'll go back down to that one. It's not going to change anything else probably as far as tornado potential goes, but as far as hail size goes, and that's got a beeline toward Newcastle. Let's see. Yeah, so the storms here in northern Oklahoma City and Edmond and central downtown, they've all kind of fallen apart as far as anything too heavy. So now the heavier stuff is now from Bethany down southwest to Yukon. DBZ values a little higher, indicating a little bit more of that mixed hail mixed in. It is raining good here. I've got 600ths. Okay, so let me go back here to the environment. I pulled this up and then saw a squirrel. Let me go back to it. You know, I use this every event just to take a look at it. It's always interesting to check out what happens historically and climatologically if you take in every case and then the setup for each case on how it worked out. And you kind of put today's events in that environment and you see what should happen. And this,
Extreme mesocell detected.
ironically, given this environment, it actually thinks that it's pretty good for tornadoes here in Oklahoma City. But if you look at a storm coming in, it says the complete opposite. Let me see how it does in Tulsa. Because that wasn't so good. This idea did not work so well. It's actually very similar in its output, saying it's favorable for tornadoes. Now there I believe it up there. Here I just don't. I don't know. I always just look at it because it's information. Let's refresh this. Let's see how this looks. Okay, so the warn-on forecast has that northern cell that's going through northern part of Oklahoma City falling apart on the east side, and then having that new cell around Yukon come in, take over, and move to the southwest side through the airport, Tuttle, Newcastle, maybe Clipping, west sides of Moore and Norman. So that's how that looks down in this region here. So it seems to think it's going to intensify and work its way down the southwest side of the metro. It does try to produce a couple other little storms, one near Lawton, one down near Wichita Falls. Those moving kind of in the same path to the north-southeast. Let's see. Let me go to a different thing I can check. This thing's got hail in here somewhere. Where'd it go? Alright, hail probabilities. Let's see how well this thing does. Forecast of hail greater than an inch in diameter is what this is looking at. And what's the time? Okay. So if we go through this with time, and it leaves a track, leaves a trail all the way out. We can go and look at the trail, and so for the trail of hail, a lot of storms here in northeastern Oklahoma are going to have an inch in diameter or larger. If you look here in Oklahoma City itself, only a half-inch size hail going through. And then if you look down here in southwestern Oklahoma City, back up to around an inch or greater. This is a probability, by the way, of large hail. So they do it on a scale of basically 0 to 1. So a very low probability of anything greater than an inch of hail here in Oklahoma City. You'd have to be on the southwest side of town for those probabilities to go up. Let me see if there's a mesoscale discussion. Nope, no new discussions. Surface obs, front coming through, southwestern out ahead of it. Basically means junk storms. Winds out here in eastern Oklahoma, again from Tulsa south is where your wind feels better. And then kind of the northeastern sides, really anemic, 5 knots up here. Even though that surface low was up here, looks like it's lost its punch. So it's not really helping to back those winds anymore or pick up the speed of them. So that's not going to help generate the tornadoes in that area. So that's kind of a lost cause at this point, so it's no longer a factor. So what you have just a general overall environment, which is wind here out of the south coming into Tulsa, and then the winds back behind it coming in kind of a north-northwest. So some really good convergence. And so it's not ideal, but it's better. In Oklahoma City, we had a southwest wind. That was horrible. It's not that I'm wanting a tornado to form. I'm just saying for conditions for that, it was horrible. All right. I think I'm done with all that. Let me do this. Down southwest. Alright, so the line is still trying to get going out here along the cold front, west of Canadian County. You see that bubbling Q. This is all bubbling Q in this area. And it's continuing to come on down the Q field, down the front in this region here. So storms will try to eventually get going. It's going to take a while, probably another half hour. But they should start to get going in this region, which is why that short-term forecast did say one of these would produce a storm coming in close to Lawton. There's actually a shadow right here over this last one right there. If you look right there's a shadow. So they're getting pretty tall. So it shouldn't be too much longer. So that tornadic storm that they had up in Tulsa, there is some report near Lenapaw of damage. Now that circulation was north of there, so it's probably the RFD. But we'll know more once somebody can get some visual confirmation. That's again near Bartlesville. It's up there in northern Oklahoma, northeastern Oklahoma. Okay, so let's see. Let's go back to radar again. Let me see. We do have a new warning they issued for that region, so we'll go up there and take a look at it. Looks like other cells kind of keep popping up behind the original lines. This one, there's a new cell up in Guthrie, for example, going up there. So this line of storms continues. Let's see. Wait a minute. Is this old? Yeah, it's old. It just hasn't dropped off. It should have expired. Yeah. This graphic just didn't get updated. Up here, okay, so there's no tornado warnings. Good. All right, so just a line of storms stretching up from north of Tulsa to southwest. Now there looks like a report of a wall cloud here. Is that time? Yep, a couple minutes ago. This is coming in Sequoia and Foyle. Right now it's over Oologah. It's in this little spot right here. So let me see. Oh yeah, for sure. All right, so you have very good strong winds coming in from the northwest in this area toward the radar. And you have strong winds going toward the storm from the radar. So the two of them are congealing right here. We call a couplet's trying to form. It's a little broad, but it's getting there. The mesocyclone rotation tracker on the radar does highlight that little region. And if it tightens up, then we're going to get a tornado out of this. And this will be on the, for your frame of reference, this is going to be northeast of Tulsa. This will be coming in toward, probably passing between Foyle and Claremore, because it should go more of a kind of a southeastward track. Now we have another little hook deal showing up. This guy here, tornado warning just came out for that one. So on this one, tornado warning for southeastern Osage and central Tulsa County till 6:30. Severe storm capable of producing a tornado located 6 miles east of Walnut Creek State Park, moving southeast at 50. This is radar indicated. We got Tulsa, Turley, Sand Springs, and Gray. And this rotation signature is not nearly as strong as the other one. but it does have rotation there with a little bit of a hook to it. I'm going to need to switch radars to go to the other high resolution one so I can see that a little better. Alright, so they did issue the tornado warning then for that other one we looked at that's heading toward Foyle and Claremore. So we'll take a look at that also again. So here's another radar view of this one, which is a better view. As this radar is a more high resolution radar. It's got a narrower beam, so it can detect these circulations a little bit better. Right now it's over open country. Literally, this is open farmland right here, a lot of trees. So let's hope that continues. But that's where that one currently is. It's moving to the southeast. So it'll be moving into Tulsa County. So Tulsa needs to be preparing for a potential tornado to come through the city. You guys know what to do. Center part of your home, lowest floor, away from all outside walls and windows. You got plenty of time. It's going to take quite a bit of time to get there. Matter of fact, moving northeast of Sand Springs by 2310. Let's see, that's in 5 minutes. And then moving on into western sides of Tulsa. By the time you head to the 10 to 15 after the hour, or after the hours, 6:10, 6:15. So you still got plenty of time to get everything in order. North from there, Ulaga, there's the other developing tornado circulation. That'll be heading toward Sequoia, looks like. So between Foyle and Claremore. So this will move pretty close to Sequoia. It's still a little broad on this radar view. Let me check this one. This one actually has this one sampled a little better. And it's still broad rotation. They both are. Good. Okay, so if you hear me say good on broad rotation, it means it's not tight closed. In other words, within, say, a mile, it's too broad. In other words, it covers 3, 4, 5 miles. You have to have that tighten up like a skater bringing in its arms, her arms, his arms, tighter. Get that circulation really fired up and spinning to get your tornado.
Severe field detected.
Alright, so that would be currently located over Chisholm Road and north of Corley Road. Chisholm and Corley. Coming up on Highway 88 here in just a couple of minutes, and then passing over 66 between Sequoia and Claremore. So be in your shelters if you live between there in Rogers County for that developing tornado. The other, again, developing tornado is the one that'll be coming into Tulsa County, and the resolution on this one for the circulation's very, very weak. Let's go look at the other radar. This one's got a much better look to it. Still weak on the circulation side, but it is closed off. In other words, this is it. At this point, this is your tornado, so it kind of moved to the south of the track. The track is the forecasted red line. All right, that's when the original tornado comes out, the polygon's drawn from the National Weather Service, and the track is provided. And this deviated from that track just a little bit here to the southwest. So that's why a polygon is a little wider. It's not just a solid straight line. In other words, take cover a little bit along this line, because there's always going to be a little wiggle room from these storms. So Tulsa has sounded the sirens in the western half of the city. There is a wall cloud on that one near Foyle. So no tornadoes reported with either one of those yet. They're just wall clouds. That one's becoming more RFD driven, and any internal circulation has now been wrapped up in the middle of that RFD signature, which means it's been occluded and no one's going to be able to view that anyway, and it also means it should die out. That's good news. That's the one coming in north of Sand Springs. The one up here in foil area, Sequoia. Okay, so here's another issue we have with squall lines. I mentioned this at the update earlier, was the issue you can have QLCS tornadoes. And QLCS tornadoes can look just like this little knob right here. Looks like nothing. Just a little eddy that junctions out ahead of the main line. And sometimes they'll produce little tornadoes, little brief little spin-ups. And they're very hard to detect. Sometimes they don't always show up. But when you see those little nodules come in, you have to take a look at them, because you could quickly get something and then it's gone, like the next volume scan of the radar. In other words, literally only a minute or two, it's gone. So that can happen when you have these little wall cloud type or squall line type storms. All right, so we're going to come back to this with an update here in a minute. There were some reports of some scary looking clouds in the southwest of Oklahoma City, around Mustang. So let's go take a look at that. Also, while that's switching radars. Oh, you know what? Let's do this real quick. Okay. I don't see anything exciting there. No, there's nothing exciting in any of this. Okay, what else we got out there? That's it. All right, northeast Oklahoma is where it's at as far as the potential tornadoes go. I'm gonna go ahead and switch this, even though I don't expect to see anything. Let's try this one first. Okay. Probability of hail 92%, probability of wind 85%, probability of a tornado 0%. Alrighty. Let's see. Wind 32 miles per hour. Gotta do better than that, buddy. That's pretty pathetic. Alright, there's just a line of multi-clustered junk storms, at least on that radar view. Let me pick another one, and then I'm going to go back to Tulsa. And while that's loading, let me take a look at this. Oh, it's going to be a great sunset.
Moderate mesocell detected. Severe hail detected.
Okay, so back to this one. Let's see here. This is a pathetic storm. Alright, let's go upstairs and look. So 50,000 feet, it's a good height. The internal cores of it, though, here we go, it's a better view. They're up around 35 to 40,000 feet. They're red, indicating DBZ values in the 50s. So you're going to get nickel, dime, and quarter size hail out of that, and you'll probably get an occasional 1 inch. I doubt you're going to get golf balls out of that. I like to see the color purple, which indicates DBZ values up over 60, closer to 70, to get that kind of large hail. And don't see it in these, but you're going to have some very heavy rainfall and a lot of probably small to medium sized hail with it for sure. We can verify that by looking at the dual pole products. Where'd that go? Close that. And we'll see if I see anything. No, I see melting hail, heavy rain. There's going to be some tiny pockets in here. We're probably going to get some small hail, especially down the line, or maybe some bigger hail, say, amongst the small hail. Like down here west of Minco, there's 1.5 inches or so size, so occasional sporadic golf ball and hailstones back here, but the ones coming through Oklahoma City, this whole thing here is a heavy rainmaker. Okay, so up here east, northeast of Arcadia, a little hailstorm up here, about 1.5 inches or so. So there's some golf balls in that one. And then back up here in Tulsa, let's go check on those, see how the tornado warnings are doing. And we'll see what is there to look at up there. See if anything's changed. That little circulation has still occluded, but man, it's hanging in there. So you basically have this enhanced reflectivity coming in to feed into the storm. All right, so that's the split panel. That's one side of it. If I were to draw the same track on the other side, it looks like this. So this is a strong wind out of the south feeding in to the circulation core. So it's still holding its own with that aspect. That's what the Weather Service just noted, but they still didn't say anything about an actual tornado yet. Things are still non-tornadic with that one, but they're going to probably extend the warning. Meanwhile, one over here in Rogers and Sequoia. Let's switch radar views. There's another tornado warning here for southwestern Missouri, up around Jasper, Nashville, Golden City. The actual tornado itself, though, looks like it'll pass south of that region to the line is through Carytown, moving just north of Alba. So be in your shelters for that one. Let's see, back down here we go. Bushy Head's an interesting little deal there. Oh, it could be some of those QLCS type tornadoes. Yep, probably one just southeast of Foyle. They're so weak, though. All right, the other one down here in Rogers County, south of Sequoia. Let's check that one out. No, it's just RFD. Good. So I don't think either one of these tornado warnings actually produced a tornado. They have seen a funnel a couple of times out of the one coming up near Sand Springs, but no official tornado touchdowns. That's good news.
Severe hail detected.
All right. So for you guys in Tulsa, know that this storm here continues to show enhanced reflectivity core on the southeast side of the storm, feeding into it to the south and west. Oh, I just realized that was... Why is that not... Okay. Sometimes this open Sometimes this captioning system gives me a fit, and I'm not sure why it gives me a fit. Why do you do this to me? Stop it. You were just fine earlier. I'm going to try something. Hang on. I'll get back to that tornado deal. Okay. That's really strange. Alrighty. Well, I don't know what happened. I guess I got that back on. So my apologies if you're trying to read half the font in the closed captioning. That was irritating, I'm sure. Okay, so back here to this one developing in tornado in Tulsa. I still think we're going to try to get one going. Right now it's moving through the west side of town. This is on 21st Street and South 33rd Avenue. So this is the rotation couplet here. There's a lot of movement around this particular circulation. Let me go to this radar. And I think this one has, so far what I've seen, is the best shot of actually producing a tornado. So stay in your shelters here. If you live in Tulsa County, especially on the south side of the county, just south of downtown, we have these feeder bands of reflectivity going in, all right, rotating in this fashion here. Again, it's a split screen, so that correlates to this region. And even though it's still a little broad, it has a heck of a lot of rotation with that. This is all low level. And a lot of times when you get a really fast inflow jet, you'll get these heightened reflectivity values, these cores that go up. When that happens, it almost produces a little baby storm. That's usually an indication that the storm is going to produce a tornado. You can see how these have kind of merged and are coming in. Let's see, this scan updates every minute or so, so we should have an update here soon. Flip over to the other radar view. So I'm looking at this from two different radars. One that's about 20 miles away, and the other one that is, get this up here, where are we? 9 miles away. The one that's 9 miles away is going to see far greater detail than the one 20 miles away when we're trying to look at tornadoes themselves. I'm going to go ahead and read the warning on this, the wording. Let's see, tornado warning for northeastern Creek County, southeastern Tulsa County until 6:45. Severe storm capable of producing a tornado located near Sand Springs, moving southeast at 40. Of course, you got Tulsa, Bixby, Glenpool, Gray, Sand Springs, Jinx Riverside Airport are all in the general path. However, we're looking at a specific line drawn in the sand. That line is going to be from Sand Springs, which is already passed, to north and east of Oakhurst, coming down the turnpike in the bend, back over 75, that intersection, and then down right through Jinx, and then eventually right through Bixby. So as long as the path doesn't deviate, that'll be the direct line. So there was another funnel reported. Oh, that was the one from several minutes ago. Okay. not current. I'm not focused right now on Oklahoma City just because it's heavy rain and some pockets of hail. And I'm seeing the helicopter shots of what they call scary looking clouds, and then we call it SLCs. And you get SLCs every spring. And SLCs mean nothing, just so you know. So it's great for television, it's great to get you to keep watching, but it means nothing in the scheme of things. So I'm not going to focus on SLCs. But what we'll focus on is legitimate tornado threat concern up here in Tulsa. So they've got a wall cloud on Yale. It's at 3600 South Yale, looking to the north. Get off of that. Where's the rotation deal? So I've got crossing over Union at this point. Pretty much right over 75 and 44 is the intersection of this broad circulation. It hasn't tightened up though. It's good, but whew, that's the area of concern right now. Peru's up here again. Nothing on that deal. So new updated wording from this. Took the track a moment ago at South 25th, West Avenue, and West 43rd Street. That is now, though, that was a couple minutes ago. So we're now past that intersection, just barely, of 44 and 75, or 2, yeah. So that's where the intersection is currently of whatever mess this circulation is. So reports are wall cloud, which is understandable. Let me do a little replay here. Boy, that came really close to doing something. Still not out of the woods yet, but for central Tulsa County, west side of Tulsa toward Sand Springs and all that, you guys are in good shape. Dodged a bullet. But down around Jinx, you guys simply be in your shelters because this storm is still kind of the same configuration. It's heading into your neck of the woods. Last known location of this is going to be right along, what is this, South Elwood Avenue and West 68th Street. That's the location of this, what would be a wall cloud / and/or funnel of that location. Alright, so that's going to continue to kind of move to the southeast toward Jinx. So stay in your shelters. You've got another, this updated track, another 5 minutes or so. Let me look at that other tornado warning storm. See how it's doing. So there's 2 areas. Oh, they're good. They did trigger a tornado warning for the other one. We looked at a moment ago, if you remember that. So this circulation is riding close to 8 air. So be in your shelter if you live in 8 air from a potential tornado coming into your region. Again, as always, lowest floor, away from all outside windows. You do not want to ride this out in a mobile home, I can assure you that. Alright, the other one that was around Claremore has since moved well to your east. Current circulation with that one, it just fell apart, looks like. Yeah, I was just about to harp on it, and then it dies. But it's still there, just broad circulation at just past the county line. So now it's crossed over into North Road 4260 and East Road 510. That's putting it southwest of Pryor by about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 miles as the crow flies. Let me check on something too now I'm thinking about that. Let's see our cloud expansion here. You can see that one southwest of Lawton still going on. So it got going here in far southwest Oklahoma, heading toward Wichita Falls or so. Then the back edge of this one kind of put the brakes on Canadian County. Hasn't really done a whole lot since then to the west. And that's going to move into the south and southeast. All these little cloud tops you see. Let me stop this. Cloud tops right here. These little shadows. Those are the ones, those are the tallest thunderstorms. And sometimes they correlate with tornadoes. So there's one up here, basically Miami. You got one up here in Tulsa. Actually, it's one north, the one we're watching. And then you got another one out here west of really ends up being Stillwater. So you can definitely get some hail out of those stronger storms. And sometimes they do have a correlation with tornadic storms. Okay, so what was I going to do? I was going to go somewhere. Oh, I was going to check something. Let's see if my friend Jeff is chasing. Sometimes he'll trace. Nope, he's tracking, which means he's looks like he might be working. Let's see. No, he is actually chasing. Yeah, so he's out there chasing. So if he can get on a tornado, trust me, he'll go back live with it, and then we can pull his view. And he should be up around Tulsa right now. So this is going back 10 minutes ago. So he probably just got out of either cell phone coverage or out of position. He's tracking the one that was coming into Tulsa County. Yeah, so now he's coming on the southwest side of town. So if I know Jeff, he'll be back online quickly. But we'll check his feed again. He's a great storm chaser. I've known Jeff for a long time. Okay, so back here onto this guy. Let's see, the 8 air storm. That's picking up in intensity. Probability of a tornado is 76%. So this location here is just south of 28. And it's coming up on the creek. What is that? Pryor Creek Stream. It's the intersection of that. Also North Road 430. Okay. Ignore whatever David Payne's pointing at. It's nothing. Alright. Back here in Oklahoma, Tulsa, let's take a look at that one. It may have fallen apart completely. Good. Let's see if that happened. Let's go to the radar view. Nope. This road, let's see, 23. Old data hasn't come in yet. The radar may have gone down. We'll see if new data comes in on that one. I'd be ashamed to lose that too. High resolution data. Oh, that's terrible. Yeah, that's not good. I love using this high resolution radars to pick out where the tropic circulations are. So if they go offline, it doesn't do me any good. Let's see, funnel was spotted southwest Tulsa at 51st and Lewis just a couple minutes ago. There was a storm spotted right literally underneath it a few minutes prior to that. Had rising motion and scud rotating, but not anything falling from the sky. Then 2 minutes after that, a guy said he saw a brief funnel. Alright, so we'll see. Hopefully this data will come back online. Until then, we still have this other radar to track it. It's just not going to be as good. The circulation center is right here on East 71st Street and South 33rd Avenue. That'll be coming up on Yale Avenue. And it just dissipated a little bit more. But there's that wall cloud not too far from there. On 52nd and Lewis earlier. That was, several minutes ago. Okay, let's do this. That 1 in 8 area has weakened as far as the circulation goes. The probability of a tornado has gone down to 57%. So those are the only two. There's 3 tornado warnings, all for areas of circulation that no longer really exist on radar. But they're residual circulation, so you have to see if they would tighten back up and regenerate and go through a cycle, and et cetera, et cetera. But nothing looks that worrisome on radar. Let's see what's happening back here. We'll see what happens west of Kellyville, north of Bristow. That'll be the new area of storm activity if it can congeal. Let's see what's going to happen if I replay this. Just a bunch of new cells merging. So it'll be a while for something to happen to that. But that is the tail end of this complex, and that's why it bears watching with time. We call it tail end Charlie. That's the slang that was probably borrowed from the World War days. Like my grandfather was a waist gunner, and he'd sit in the back of the plane. I would not ever want to go to war and have to do stuff like that, but anyway, that is the area we'll watch for any new development coming up. And then on the other end of the line, where you see these little bows that'll come out like this, these are wave echo patterns caused by an area of low pressure develops. So a lot of times you can get a tornado warning triggered off of that. And what happens is you may not get an actual tornado all the time, but you can get tornado type damage, because what happens is this bowing is indicative of the winds rotating around the back of that low and then coming down the surface. Inoco wave pattern. So that is a potential source for a tornado warning that can be long-lived and cause some more widespread damage than actual tornado itself. So those can have that ability. It's just now got that look to it on reflectivity. Okay, back on the Tulsa one, let's check this again. And then I'm going to check to see that other radar came back online. Nothing. Good. Nothing but nothing. Whew, That was a close call earlier. Okay, good. The radar did come back online. All right. Now, in this case, got a lot of wind with this system. A lot of wind. What is this wind speed? 68 miles per hour. 67 around Jinx. It's all this pink area you see on the map. 68 mile per hour winds. And what am I on here? Let's do base. All right, so that's storm relative that we're looking at. That's storm relative, so it won't be realized as much the surface. Still be some good winds though. There was an official reportment. What word is that I just made up? Reported 65 to 75 near 51st Street in Harvard. So maybe these winds are actually getting down on the ground. They should be. I'm only at 300 feet elevation. So that would be some damaging wind for you folks up around Jinx and back in toward Oakhurst, right up 75 in the Turnpike. Those little pink regions. Alright, well that tornadic type circulation is gone. I don't think it's going to come back. It's too muddied now.
Moderate mesocell detected.
Those don't look any better. About the one here west of Kellyville. That's still a convoluted mess. It's going to have to take some more time to get its act together. But it would likely try to be the star at some point. So for you folks in Jinx and Bixby, still stay in your shelters. But the good news is the tornado development continues to hold off. So looks like some scud skipping across the sky in Newcastle. Absolutely zero rotation with that. Okay. Oh boy. I can see somebody's making a mountain out of a molehill. Don't look, Aaron, don't look. Alright, let's go. Let's just go check out Oklahoma City. See what's shaking down here. Let's go pull that up. And it's been a while since I've investigated these. Okay, let's see what's happening down here. Finishes loading up data. Let's see. Well, that was transient weak. So this Bridge Creek one, it had a whopping 8 miles per hour inbound and 25 outbound. Let's see, at this point here, we're up to 17 inbound. That wasn't bad, twin outbound. So east of Bridge Creek, there at 30 minutes a while back, 13 minutes ago. There's actually enough to produce probably a wall cloud. And that little circulation center went on and died. But it wasn't a tornado producing circulation center. The winds were too weak. But at least there was something there. All right. So the tornado warning will be expiring in Tulsa County. They just never could get its act together, so they're going to let that expire. Probability of hail 92%. Probability of a tornado 1% in the Newcastle storm. So these are severe thunderstorm warnings southwest of Oklahoma City as you head out toward Blanchard and Chickasha, moving south-southeast. I've been going about, I think, 30 miles an hour. Let's see if that's changed any. Let's see, where are we? 20. So it's moving a little slower because we're on the west side of the line. Golf ball size hail and 60 mile per hour wind gusts. So your typical Oklahoma City springtime thunderstorms. This is moving at 25, the one near Chickasha. That had little hailstones, bigger in the warning, up to 2 inches. But the reports so far from both of these have only come out to an inch here lately. There's an inch there. There was, let's see, what time did that happen? Bocasset at 6-7 minutes ago, there was some hail, supposedly up around 2.5 inches in diameter. It's big. So occasionally you'll get a big hailstone out of this. All right, let's see. I'm trying to get one of the research radars to load. And I'm striking out so far. Come on, you can do it. Give me some data. Alright, waiting on that one. Let's go back here to the Newcastle deal. So right along 62 and 9 is a very weak circulation center. So you'd probably get a wall cloud looking thing out of that. Let's see, let's turn this off. So the good news is with this, the high resolution radar southwest of Oklahoma, southwest of Norman, and south of Newcastle, the radar is actually from this storm is only about 6 miles away. And the beam is basically at the surface, so it's only a couple hundred feet off the ground. So if there were to be a tornado, this would get it. So hail report, baseball size hail just happened just west of Cushing, 2 miles west of Cushing. That's big. Again, I'm focused more on any potential tornadoes than I am the large hail. Last hurrah. Let's see what happens. Okay, so still watching this little weak circulation center that's west of Goldsby. It's nothing to write home about. I'm just watching something on radar that's very transient and weak, but something to focus on here in southwest Oklahoma City. Let's see, this is D3. It is. Potential hail 100%. Hail size up to a golf ball, and estimated wind gusts with it about 65 miles per hour. That's this Newcastle storm. Those are the parameters within this one. It's going to affect Cole at 7:03 and Kreiner at 7:30. Let's see here. It has held its own on DBZ value, and the vills come down a little bit, and the tops have held their own. So in other words, the storm is not increasing, it's not decreasing, it's just steady state. And the mesocyclone trend has been steady, except for the last 10 minutes. It actually increased down lower to the ground. So the mesocyclone stretched from mid-levels down to the lower levels. That's an indication of an attempt to try to produce a tornado. So that's this little path here moving through Cole and between Washington and Dibble here pretty soon. However, you still have to have something at the surface to warn on. I just don't see anything. Alright, I never got my research radar going. It's so lame. Guys don't have that turned on. Come on, you're missing a good opportunity. That's a shame. So that research radar is located down in Norman. The operational NextRad from the Weather Service is located out toward Twin Lakes. So this one in Norman would have been a lot closer to see this low-level development stuff. We'll take a look at Cushing here in a second. Let's see here. So some pockets of pretty good hail north side of Chickasha. So this purple up to pink areas up around 65 dBz. So that means some good hail coming out, probably golf ball size. That's just the north side of Chickasha coming southward into Chickasha itself. So you guys get some large hail. Cushing was the one also reported some large hail. They had west of town. Let's see here. Hail 2 3/4 inches for emergency management. So Weather Service put out a update that says these storms, Oklahoma City south, basically are moving into an environment, continue to support large hail and damaging winds. So that's how things are breaking down. So you got a split here. You got the tail end of the MCS action or squall line here, a break into some rogue cells here, and then some rogue cells here. Model data eventually fills it in as we head into this area of the state and then moving south and east. So that's the idea. That's the game plan. So that's where that squalling would continue. Let's go check out any updates here on these storms for Tulsa. We'll see if things change there. Listening to the discussions from the Weather Service, there wasn't anything to jump on. See if anything's changed here last couple minutes. Alright, so we're back here with these guys. Still got that little S appendage I mentioned a while back for this guy here, because winds like to come out, straight line winds in this fashion. And man, in this radar data, straight line winds, there's just no tornadoes with this on radar at this time. That's a good thing though. The tornado warnings are still continuing, however. So the let's do this. 66 miles per hour. So from Salina to Locust Grove, these pink areas are pretty high on the wind speeds. What would have been a circulation point for this, the meso low, would be right here, north of Salina and southwest of Spavnaugh. Spavnaugh, I believe. Yeah, Spavnaugh. So that's really it with that one. It's just turning in a damaging wind for that part of the state. The one down in Tulsa, of course, that thing fell apart a long time ago. Watching the back edge, we just have to take a look at once things calm down. Things calm down. We're at the back edge here, but nothing's happening with that. So this thing's quickly turning into a hail and wind event, even for you guys up in Tulsa and northeast Oklahoma. Let's go see how things are progressing with the updated radar image. Forecast model. Okay, so probability of hail continues in the same regions we talked about. So the short-term forecast, minute by minute, still says we're going to get hail greater than an inch in diameter. Is down here around Chickasha and points southward from that cluster of storms. The ones we track the damaging winds up here east of Tulsa, and then the one southwest of Tulsa on the tail end of that line. So those are your three most significant areas of this line for storms, and these are moving more southward, and these are kind of moving more southeastward, and these are moving more eastward. So those will be your three areas from which you would experience potentially up to baseball size hail. And then, as far as rotation, let's take a look. Oh, it's mid-level. I don't want that. Everything rotates mid-levels. Give me low level. Okay, so this has some very weak low-level rotation here, which kind of jives what we've been watching so far on radar. Those winds are very anemic down there, even though there is some weak rotation. These are much stronger coming up in the forecast for that tail end, which is what I talked about watching. And then, of course, you have the low-level rotation with that meso-low up here on this part of the squall line. So those are also your three areas to watch for significant tail and also potential. Well, I'll mark out this one, but here and here, potential tornado type damage. And let me see if they've got anything else in here of interest. Let's see, it's hail, max surface wind. That'll be good. Let's try that out. So what this does, it takes the current radar view, nope, not working, and then uses model data and then forecasts on a short-term scale every 5 minutes, and then predicts what the storms are going to do given the environment and what's going to come out of them. Let's try an ensemble approach. See if that works. Nope, they don't have that turned on today. This is very experimental, by the way, so there's not a guarantee that all the they're not going to have everything turned on and working, but we will take what we can get. So between now and at 7:40, the trend here is to take the storms that are along this line and then push them forward in time, right? The other trends you'll see is that they're trying to fill this gap here, and they're expanding southward here to east of Lawton. So that's the trend you're watching. These storms here start out kind of more isolated, and then the squall line overall is still trying to consolidate from this point forward and catch on with these guys and then move south and east. So at 8 o'clock, that's what we should see. We should pretty much see this fill in by 8 o'clock in this area, and the whole line will then start to race to the south and east. They'll pick up speed once that happens. Let's see, anything else of interest? There is an MCD. Storms will continue to pose a risk for damaging wind, large hail, and a few tornadoes as they move through northeast Oklahoma, southwest Missouri, and northwest Arkansas through 9 o'clock. Broken squall line extends from southwest Missouri through northeast north central Oklahoma, moving southeast around 35 knots. The atmosphere remains very unstable. Downstream of the line, we're 3,000 or so Cape, supported by mid-upper 60 dew points, steep lapse rates. FAD wind profiles from Tulsa has indicated some increase in low-level shear during the past hour, with storm relative velocity from northeast Oklahoma to southwest Missouri around a meso-low circulation. And that's what we talked about on radar a while back. Otherwise, 40 to 50 effective bulk shear remains more than sufficient for organized structures, including a few bowing segments and embedded supercells. So probably what will happen is you're going to get a lot of severe weather reports later versus now. As this thing matures, however, being nighttime, it'll be a little weaker. So you'll have a lot more smaller hail reports coming in, say closer to golf balls or an inch than you will have anything larger than that. And then the winds themselves, you'll probably have a lot of wind reports coming in 50, 60, 70 miles per hour from southeast Oklahoma through northeast Texas and all the way down to eastern Texas. So that's how this thing should evolve. Okay, but here in Tulsa, did they drop the warnings? They did. They dropped the tornado warnings up there. All right. Well, we couldn't find them on the radar, so it makes sense. It was turning into a straight line wind event. Still up here around Goldsby, good old-fashioned thunderstorm, and down here around Chickasha, good old-fashioned thunderstorm with some good hail. What is that, 1.25 inches? Is that hail or rainfall? Yep, that's 1.25 inches hail. I haven't pulled up this in a while. Still has held prediction of about 2 inches for the southwestern Chickasha deal. So the one that went through town. Remember earlier I looked at the color of the DBZ value, and it was like 65. And so you're probably get up to golf balls reports in that. So that's a pretty good estimate that moved through. And this report doesn't have it, does it? Where is that report that we had on the other one? I'll have to go back. It was this one. Yeah, this circle here. So on the west side of town, that was 1.25 inches, $0.50. Another 1/2 inch diameter, or added to that, it would have been golf ball. Okay. So straight line winds continue out here near Rocketford and Leech and Oaks and eventually Kansas and Flint Creek. Some noise within this, which means very turbulent. That's what the yellow is. Spectrum width, which indicates a lot of turbulence within the targets that the radar is seeing. There's too much variance. In other words, the particles are moving too many different directions. So it's harder to get a solid estimate on wind speeds because the wind speeds are so high. So in this case, the wind speeds are in excess of 68 miles per hour. Let me bail off of those. And we're going to come over here to Tulsa. We're going to investigate these a little bit. And then I'm probably going to go ahead and wrap this up. Where did my radar go? There it is. We'll let that switch over. Okay. Turn on the old probe, and you see where this data turns colors. It out exceeded its Nyquist velocity, so the color table then actually flips over and uses a different color palette once it gets over 65 miles per hour. So that means winds out here are probably around 70. Let me see if I can find the latest version of that. Yeah, there we go. All right, man. Woo! 77, 78 miles per hour. 81. Ignore the 103. The one next has the last true value of 81 that exceeds the, there's 85. Right along 412. Man, just on the southwest side of 412. 92, 92. Man, maybe, I'm not going to buy the 100-mile-per-hour winds because that's ridiculous. But still, that's some damaging winds coming east out of Locust Grove, halfway between there and Kansas, just east of the county line. So we're in Adair County, I believe this is. Let me go back and look. Where are we? Delaware County. Adair's just another county over. So we're splitting Cherokee and Delaware, but the biggest winds are in Delaware, just southwest of Leech. So that is where you're going to have some damaging wind within that particular cell. The roadways intersection of this is 4540 North Road and intersection of East 570 between Leech and Rockford. That's where those damaging winds are, in excess of 60 to 70 to 80 miles per hour easy. Some of those radar estimates up higher than that. Some of those I got to throw out because they're too high, they're outliers. And it's in a noisy environment. Remember the spectrum width we talked about that we showed up a minute ago? It's hard to get a good velocity estimate in that, but that spectrum width's come down. Let me see something. I don't see any blowing debris or anything from that kind of wind. Alright, so there is a there was a supposed wall cloud with rotation in that same area of Leech a few minutes ago. But a tornado warning was reissued for that meso-low circulation that's going to be west of Tag Flats in Bull Hollow that just moved through that area. So this is it on radar. It's this area where the green and the red come together. Again, this is a common deal for this type of structure. It doesn't always produce a tornado, but the damaging winds on the bottom end of it can sometimes be just as strong of a tornado, as a tornado I should say. But that'll be the circulation center there, and then the outflow winds come in this area, then point south down the line. So that's why if you scroll down the line, they get a little stronger with the jet interaction. Leech, Rockford, and Oaks, and the wind speeds here in the pinkish purple area are in excess of 60 miles an hour. So that really extends. Look how much purple's on the map now. All these winds are going to be in excess of 60. So this is becoming your straight line wind event, which happens on the bottom end of this meso-low circulation. So again, that's this guy here. And then what happens is you get these, the winds upstairs from the storm get pulled down to the surface, like an elevator ride crashing down. And it takes all that energy, kinetic energy, upstairs and brings it down to the surface. And that causes, the problem is you can't go into the ground, so you basically just force it to the ground and then it skirts along the ground. And then the radar picks it up as some good straight line wind events. Now this can do as much damage as a small tornado, so keep that in mind. Let me check a little elsewhere along this line. Let's see. Nope. got to be a big hailstorm down here at Chickasha for it to be detected from Tulsa's radar. It's a long ways away. Oof. Just saying. What is in that anyway? C4? Yeah, tennis ball size hail is what their algorithms are showing. 2.25 inches. Let's see. Agawam and Rush Springs in the path of that hailstorm. Let's see. DBZ values. That actually went up a little. So the storm increased over the last 15 minutes, just slightly. And then the Ville increased way higher. And the tops went down some. Interesting. So let's focus on this guy here. Alright, I'll have to switch radar views to get a better look at that one, because I'm back in Tulsa. Let's do this guy first. Let's see how this looks. So Ninnekah's getting the heavy hail core at this point. Golf ball size hail in Chickasha a little while ago. Okay, good. In two different places.
Extreme mesocell
That
detected.
jives what we were looking at before.
Severe hail detected.
Nothing in the way of any damaging winds. Too out of control. Just hailstorms at this point and heavy rainfall. Agawam and Rush Springs for this little hail core maker. Let's switch. Let's see. Let's go to this view, and then we're gonna go up. Oh, let me go upstairs first with this guy. See how this looks. $50,000 feet, 30,000 feet. All right, I'm gonna do another radar. Still getting a rotating wall cloud area. That storm we looked at in near Kansas, Oklahoma, Delaware County, on 412 and Highway 10. We can go back and look at that area in a minute. That's just where you have those straight line winds, so that can kick up all kinds of stuff when you see that. Let's see. Let's go here. Okay, where are we here? We're at still 50,000 feet. Okay, see these are the serious hail cores. This is what we're talking about. This is what produces those tennis balls. Is you get out of the red and you get into the purple. So let me show you what that means. We remove the red, so all that we're left with is purple, and this is 60 dBz, and this goes into, before it disappears, where it's 65 dBz, so 60 to 65. So that's where you're going to find your golf ball size hail, if not a little larger. That's going to be the easy target golf balls, and they're being lofted still at 20 to 25 to 30,000 feet, so they still got a ways to go before they drop. So these are cores being held up by the updraft from this particular thunderstorm. So at some point, the updraft that's launching these upwards can't sustain them anymore, and then they get too big, and then they fall down as a downdraft. And that's where you get those big hailstones coming in once they get a little too large. So there you go. That's your hailstorm coming in. And if you toggle this down south of Chickasha by about 4 to 8 miles is the 4 mile range of that. pretty good stuff if you like hailstorms. Let's see. Yeah. All right. Let's get off of that. Okay, so this is where I get bored, not only because it's just hailstorms here in Oklahoma City and general thunderstorms in other areas, because they're just good old-fashioned Oklahoma springtime thunderstorms. Don't play in them. Stay out from being outside of them. You're going to be fine. The only storm that had any decent wind and a potential tornado with it was the one that'll be coming into Arkansas in a minute, and we'll go back and take a look at that, and then I'm going to call it. And I made rebroadcast just a radar view with some information, and then if another tornado type situation were to emerge later on this evening, I can do cut-ins for that. At least that way you still have some information. I'd still use my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. It'll warn you of tornadoes before they develop, and it'll keep track of those. Apple, Google Play. Alright, so this is where the mesolobe is located, and then this is where the not RFD, but where the straight line winds are going to be. Let's take a look one more time. Strongest winds now picking up around Chewy, up around 70 miles an hour. And just east of Kansas, where that wall cloud was reported. Keep in mind that's not going to be a wall cloud, even though that's what was the report.
Severe hail detected.
What it's going to be is a lot of blowing wind, straight line that can spin things up on leading edge, which kind of make things look like they're rotating because they'll be going different directions. So a lot of what we call shear, convergent shear along an axis, azimuthal shear, if you will. And so that's going to get misidentified as a wall cloud, but there's no supercell with that, therefore it can't be a wall cloud. But that just kind of goes to show you that it's got a lot of wind with it. And there's a lot of scary clouds going in different directions. Now up here, north of Cloud Creek, you might be able to see a wall cloud with that one. That's where the tornado is, but unfortunately they're typically rain wrapped in this location and not visible. And even then, there's very low probability of actually getting a tornado touching down in this location, but that's where one could potentially be. But really, it's more of a driver for the squall line and a driver for little baby spin ups along the leading edge, and a driver for the straight line winds. It's more of a mid-level circulation, not necessarily a lower level. All right. Okay, so that is it. We cover the few of those tornadic storms that never officially touched down in northeast Oklahoma, which is good. And we covered some of those hailmakers and here in central Oklahoma. And we covered a little bit of wind. And that's your typical garden variety type thunderstorm here in Oklahoma. So it's springtime. There's still that threat of severe weather for the rest of this evening and overnight as these storms kind of congeal into a line and then move more south and east into southeast Oklahoma. Conditions are still there for pockets of hail and wind. The surface wind field, though, very anemic. South winds at 5 knots. So there's not really anything that's going to try to get a tornado to go. Any tornado event would be more of a very small scale. We're talking hyper local meso scale of a micro level, and it would be just some little eddy that gets caught up and spun up into an updraft, and it produces what we call a QLCS tornado, which in that case would be a weak one. So that's the only thing I could really foresee at this point in time. We'll see if things change, but right now that's the way it looks. Sometimes a low-level jet kicks in. That kind of helps offset the weaker wind field at the surface. So it may kind of help give it a little momentary boost. But that's starting to happen now. Usually just right as the sun starts to set, and for about the next hour or two is when that happens, and we'll see if that transition does anything for these storms. But that's really about the only other ingredient that can matter to make things, a little more dicey than they already are. That's about it. That's all I see. So, all right, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna stop this broadcast, and I may start another one just with radar and then like maps and stuff that are helpful and beneficial, no weather radio, that kind of deal. Then I might come back on again later if it turns out we get more tornadoes that try to develop out of this, and we'll just kind of go from there. But thanks for watching. Appreciate you watching and following AT's weather. Be sure to hit notifications if you're watching on YouTube or Twitter or Periscope or Facebook itself. You can join my Facebook fan community. It's Facebook fan subscriptions and or through Patreon. The links are on this broadcast. Also my website, aarontuttle.weather.com. Has a ton of information on there for you. Everything's free, including a weather app. Apple, Google Play. It's called AT's Weather to Go. It will predict tornadoes and give you heads up, especially at nighttime. Invaluable. And also make sure you have a no weather radio. That's good to have 24/7, 365. Have it programmed, so get one of those smart ones so it doesn't go off all the time. You can select which warnings you want and where it's going to warn you. Then last but not least, have a game plan, both daytime and nighttime, as to where to go should you experience severe weather in your neck of the woods. Don't come outside and play in it. Stay out of the hail, stay out of the heavy damaging winds, stay away from windows. Don't ride out anything in a mobile home. So those are all the tips that we kind of repeat during spring severe weather season, because it happens every year. All right, I'm going to take a little break and we'll see what happens. Thanks again for watching. Talk soon. Have a good evening.